Hello, Namaste, my witchlings. Not seeing anybody here yet, so... Oh, I just wiped my frickin' fingers on my lenses. Alright. Welcome one and all back to the Cauldron. Tonight... Might help if I put my mic where it can be heard, right? Alright, welcome everyone back to the Cauldron. Tonight, we are not talking about perfect love. We are not talking about fairy tales or forever without friction. We are talking about what happens after the crack. Alright, so that's what we're talking about this week. All right. This week's word is Pratisandhāna, putting together again, relinking, rejoining what has come apart, and coming apart is not failure. It is friction, it's difference, it's two histories brushing up against each other. So disconnection happens quietly sometimes. A tone shifts, or a boundary is crossed, or maybe a need goes unspoken, and suddenly there's space where warmth used to be. Pratisandhana doesn't pretend the rupture didn't happen. It doesn't rush to smooth things over. It asks, what broke? What's worth restoring? What needs to change so this doesn't keep happening? Tonight, we are going to sit with that space between break and repair, not to shame ourselves, not to blame someone else, but to understand how resilient connection is actually built. Excuse me. Because love is not proven by never cracking, it's proven by how we return. And sometimes, now this matters, by knowing when not to. So, settle in, let the heart fire be steady, let your spine be tall. We are stepping into the sacred work of putting things back together without losing ourselves in the process. Tonight, we're not talking about romance fluff. We are talking about real, genuine adult love. The kind that survives reality, that has seen each other tired, stressed, grieving, triggered, and chooses to stay in the work anyway. Adult love is not aesthetic. It's not curated. It is not filtered through good lighting and clever captions. It is two imperfect nervous systems learning how to coexist without destroying each other. That, my friends, is where Pratisandhana lives. Pratisandhana is not erasing conflict. It's not bypassing pain. It literally implies that something has come apart and is being intentionally put back together. There was a separation, a rupture, or a tear in the fabric. That means something broke. We have to normalize that because things break. Expectations break, assumptions break. The fantasy that someone will respond exactly how you hoped breaks. The belief that being in love should make everything smooth breaks. Sometimes the story you had about how someone should respond breaks. Conflict is not proof that love failed. Conflict is proof that, well, two nervous systems with different histories collided. Two biographies walked into the same moment and interpreted it through completely different lenses. One person hears criticism, the other believes they're just offering feedback. One person feels abandoned, the other believes they are taking healthy space. Same moment, different histories. The question is never, did we fight? If you are close to another human being long enough, you will. It's a given. The question is, what did we do after? Repair is the after. Repair is what separates resilient connection from quiet resentment. Repair requires 3 pillars: ownership, impact awareness, and behavioral adjustment. Ownership sounds like, I interrupted you. That was dismissive. No qualifiers. No, but you were. No softening it with justification. Simply clarity. Impact awareness sounds like, I see that I hurt you. Not arguing with their perception, not litigating intent, simply acknowledging the landing. Impact often matters more than intention in repair. Behavioral adjustment sounds like, next time I will pause and let you finish. That's the part most people skip because, well, change is effort. Change requires practice. It requires catching yourself in the moment and choosing differently. Notice what's missing from this whole structure. There's no performance, no dramatic groveling, and no defensiveness disguised as explanation, and most of all, no emotional gymnastics to avoid discomfort. Repair is steady, grounded, almost boring in its simplicity, and that is why people resist it. Most people skip repair because it threatens identity. The ego whispers, if I admit that I hurt you, does that mean I'm a bad person? And we panic. We defend. We counterattack. We explain until the air is thick with justification. But ownership is not condemnation. No. It means you're human. Oh my gosh. How horrible is that? We're human. Pratisandhana requires ego flexibility. It asks, can you tolerate being imperfect without collapsing into shame or launching into attack? Can you stay present while someone tells you your impact did not match your intention? That's your first gate. Because if you cannot tolerate imperfection, you will avoid repair. And avoidance breeds resentment. Resentment is quiet, it accumulates, and it hardens, and it tells a story. They don't care. I'm always the one trying. This is just how it is. Repair interrupts that narrative. And here's something that matters very deeply. Repair must be mutual to create resilient connection. If one person is always the one repairing, always the one bending, always the one initiating those hard conversations, while the other one continues injuring without reflection, honey, that's not resilience, that's imbalance and a slow erosion. Resilience is elasticity. It stretches, it flexes, it absorbs shock. But it does not snap. And it does not ask one side to do all the stretching. You're going to get stretched out of shape there real quick. Healthy connection means both people can say, I missed that one. Let me try it again. Both people can say, I didn't realize that landed that way. Both people can tolerate discomfort in service of growth. Pratisandhana is not about keeping everything intact at all costs. No. It is about returning with awareness, with adjustment, and returning differently than before. Let that one settle for a minute. Love is not proven by perfection. It's proven by the willingness to return and to return differently. That's what makes it resilient, and that's what makes it real. And that's what the work that we are stepping into tonight. So, Before we talk about boundaries, though, we need to talk bodies. Because when conflict happens, your nervous system doesn't pause and ask for your spiritual resume. Wouldn't it be nice? It does not care how many books you've read, how many yoga trainings you've taken, how many affirmations you can recite. It reacts. Heart rate increases, muscles tighten, your jaw sets, your vision narrows. The amygdala, your brain's alarm center, flags danger. Cortisol and adrenaline flood your system while your body prepares to fight, flee, freeze, or fawn. Fight, well, that might look like sharp words. Flee might look like shutting down or just leaving the room. Freezing might look like going blank, unable to speak. Fawn might look like immediate appeasement. It's fine, don't worry about it, we're okay, it's okay. Even when it isn't fine at all. And all of that happens in milliseconds. And here's the wild part for us. The danger? It might not be danger at all. It might just be a tone of voice that reminds you of something from 1988. It looks like a look or a sigh, a pause that feels like rejection because once, long ago, it was. Your nervous system is a fantabulous historian. It keeps records you do not consciously access. It catalogs moments of shame, criticism, abandonment, and unpredictability. It notices patterns before your conscious mind does. So, when you try to repair in that state, when your pulse is racing and your chest is tight, you will escalate. Not because you're cruel, not because you're incapable of love, but because you're flooded. And flooded means your body believes it is under threat. Logic tracks. Pratisandhana cannot happen in full sympathetic activation. It cannot happen while your system is screaming, unsafe, unsafe, danger, Will Robinson, danger, danger. Repair requires access to your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for empathy, perspective, impulse control, and long-term thinking. That's the part that can say, we're not actually in danger, we're just disagreeing here. But when that alarm is blaring, that part goes offline. This is not a moral failure, it's physiology. You cannot out-philosophy a flooded nervous system. You cannot mantra your way through a cortisol surge. You regulate first, you repair second. Regulation is not suppression. It is not swallowing your feelings, and it is not pretending you're calm when you're actually not. That, my friends, is dissociation wearing a polite smile. Ask me how I know. Regulation is returning to baseline. It's bringing your body back into a state where you can think and feel at the same time. So think of it as widening your window of tolerance, that range in which you can experience emotion without losing stability. So, what does regulation look like in real time? Slow your breathing. Inhale longer than you think you need to. 4 counts in, 6 or 8 counts out. The extended exhale signals to your nervous system that you are not running from a predator. You do not have a saber-toothed tiger on your tail. That was a bad choice of words, but y'all know what I mean. So, drop your shoulders, unclench your jaw, let your tongue rest on the floor of your mouth instead of pressing against the roof and your teeth. Feel your feet on the floor. Literally, press them down. Notice the sensation of contact here. Notice the temperature of the room. Notice something utterly neutral. The hum of the fridge, the weight or softness of your clothing, the rhythm of your breath. Remind your body that you are here now and not in whatever memory just got activated. If you cannot access those, if your hands are shaking, your thoughts are racing, your voice is sharper than you intend it to be, you are not ready to repair. Take space. Space is not abandonment when it's communicated, though. Say, I want to continue this. I need 20 minutes to regulate, calm down, breathe, however you word it. That sentence is loving. That sentence protects both of you from unnecessary damage. It says, this matters enough to do well. Staying in a conversation while dysregulated often leads to words you don't mean. Sharp, exaggerated, absolute words. You always, you never. This is just like. Those words create new ruptures. Now you're not just repairing the original issue. Now you're repairing that repair attempt. And that, my loves, is exhausting. Again, ask me how I know. So, part of resilient connection is respecting the biology of emotion. I'm going to say that one again because there's a lot of people that don't know that that's true. Part of resilient connection is respecting the biology of emotion. It's honoring that part of your body that is part of the relationship. Wait a minute. It's honoring that your body is part of the relationship. There we go. I can talk. It's acknowledging that love does not override neurochemistry. You are not weak for needing time. You are wise. You are not dramatic for feeling activated. You're human. The body is not your enemy. It's your early warning system. It is trying, sometimes clumsily albeit, to protect you from perceived harm. When you treat your nervous system as an ally instead of a problem, something shifts. You stop shaming yourself for reacting, and you start learning from the reaction. What just got touched? Why did that land so hard and so sharply? Is this about what's going on now, or about then? That inquiry is pretty powerful, but it only becomes accessible when you're regulated. Pratisandhana begins with nervous system safety. Without safety, there is no relinking. There is only survival. And survival is loud, reactive, and absolute. Repair is steady, intentional, and paced. Survival says win. Repair says understand. Survival says defend. Repair says reconnect. So before you attempt to put anything back together this week, check your body. Are you braced? Are you breathing? Are you grounded? If not, regulate first. Inhale 4, exhale 6 or 8. Do that for about 3-4 breaths. You'll calm down. That is not weakness, my friends. That is advanced relational skill, because the most resilient connections are not the ones without activation. They're the ones where both people know how to come back down, and only then do they begin Pratisandhana. Makes sense so far. Okay, so now we enter boundaries, and let's take a second and clear the smoke right now. Boundaries are not walls. They are thresholds. A wall says, ain't nobody getting in. A threshold says, here are the conditions of entry. One is isolation. The other is simply structure. Walls, they're built out of fear. Thresholds are built out of clarity. Loving limits are about clarity, not control. They are not about forcing someone to behave. They are not about shaping another adult into your comfort zone. They are about deciding what you will participate in and what you won't. A boundary is about your behavior, not theirs. I will leave the conversation if I am yelled at. I will not loan money I cannot afford to lose. I will not joke about things that hurt me. I am not answering texts after 9 p.m. I am not going to stay where I am being insulted. See the structure? It's about what you will do. You're not issuing threats. You're stating parameters. You are naming the conditions under which connection remains healthy. That's maturity, my friends. When boundaries become ultimatums designed to manipulate somebody else's behavior, if you loved me, you would, or you have to, they lose integrity. That is control dressed up as vulnerability. Boundaries are self-protective, not punitive. They're about preserving dignity and nervous system safety, not winning the argument. And here is where this all connects to our Sanskrit word Pratisandhāna. Pratisandhana and boundaries are not opposites, they are partners. You cannot put something back together if it keeps being shattered. Repair requires containment. It requires a container strong enough to hold the work. Boundaries are that container. Without them, Without them, repair becomes a revolving door of rupture, apology, rupture, apology, rupture, apology, with absolutely no structural change. The same crack keeps reopening because nothing around it has been reinforced. Boundaries reinforce that structure. They say, we are going to try again, but not under the same conditions that broke us. And here's the uncomfortable piece. If somebody repeatedly violates your clearly stated boundaries, calmly stated, consistently held, the repair may not be with them. It may be with yourself. Repairing your own self-trust. Because every time you override your own limit, every time you say it's fine when it really isn't, every time you stay past your threshold, every time you silence yourself to keep the peace, you teach your nervous system that your needs are negotiable. And that means they're not needs anymore. And then your nervous system listens. Self-betrayal erodes resilience faster than external conflict ever could. It creates internal fracture. You start second-guessing yourself or minimizing your reactions. You start doubting your own perception. Internal fracture, oh my God, it's so exhausting. So sometimes Pratisandhana is not about relinking with another person. It's about relinking with your own voice. It sounds like this. I said I would leave if that happened again, so I am leaving. Not dramatically, not slamming doors, not posting cryptic quotes online. Just clearly. I said I wouldn't participate in that, so I'm out. Boundaries are not declarations of war. They are declarations of self-respect. And self-respect is not arrogance, it is alignment. Staying open without self-betrayal means this. I am willing to work on connection. I am willing to listen. I am willing to examine my part. I am not willing to override my core needs to maintain it. That is the spine of this week. Open heart, steady spine. Without the spine, the heart collapses into overaccommodation. You start shaping yourself to fit other people's comfort. You become agreeable at the expense of authenticity. Without the heart, the spine hardens into rigidity. Everything becomes a line in the sand, no flexibility, zero grace. Loving limits hold both. They allow you to bend without breaking and care without collapsing. They allow you to say, I value you, and this is not okay in the same breath. And when you practice them consistently, calmly, and clearly, without apology for your own existence, you create the conditions where repair is possible. Because repair requires safety. Safety requires predictability. Predictability requires boundaries. Real connection can only exist where safety and respect are mutual, where both people know the parameters, where both people know that dignity will be preserved even during conflict. Anything else is performance. Performance looks like harmony. It feels like tension. It sounds like laughter that's just slightly too sharp. We are not performing here. We are building something that can bend without breaking. Something that cracks can be restored. Something that can crack and be restored. Something that holds both vulnerability and strength. That, my friends, is loving limits. And Pratisandhana with a spine. Oh. My hands are cold. Don't mind me. All right, you guys. This is the hard part. Not every rupture is repairable. Take a breath with that one and let it land without drama. No violins, no cat. I have so much trouble with this word. No violins, no cat catastrophizing, just some clarity. This is not cynicism, it is discernment. Pratisandhana assumes both parties want reconnection. It assumes there is shared investment in restoring what was broken. It assumes that when something cracks, both people step toward the fracture and say, let's see if we can mend this. But if one person benefits from disconnection, from chaos, control, dominance, from always being right, well, at that point, repair becomes one-sided labor, and one-sided labor is not resilience. You cannot stitch a wound while someone keeps pulling the thread out. You cannot rebuild trust while someone continues the behavior that broke it. You cannot practice mutual repair alone. It's not mutual if you're doing it alone. Resilient connection requires three things: willingness, accountability, and reciprocity. Willingness means both people are open to looking at themselves, not just analyzing the other person's flaws, but asking, what is my contribution here? Accountability means both people can say without qualifiers, I did that, not just, I did that because you. It is just ownership. Reciprocity means the effort flows both ways. Not always equally in every moment, but over time there is balance. There is movement from both sides. Without those, you are not repairing. You're enduring. There's a huge difference. Enduring is survival. Repairing is transformation. Enduring says, well, maybe if I just try a little bit harder. Repairing says, we both need to adjust. Enduring says, if I shrink just a little bit more, maybe it'll stabilize. Repairing says, we are both responsible for the health of this connection. Some relationships are classrooms. They are not meant to be permanent homes. They teach you what your boundaries are. They teach you what you will no longer tolerate. They teach you how easily you abandon yourself when you're afraid to lose connection. And that learning isn't wasted. Even if it hurt, even if it took you years to see it clearly, even if you wish you'd left sooner. Sometimes the most honest act of Pratisandhana is not restoring the bond, it's restoring yourself. Putting your own nervous system back into regulation after months, years, or decades of walking on eggshells. Putting your dignity back into your posture after shrinking to fit someone else's comfort. Putting your clarity back into place after being told you were too sensitive, too much, too dramatic, or imagining things. That is also repair, and let me tell you, that is also so sacred. Because when you leave a connection that repeatedly violates your boundaries, the very first rupture you need to mend is internal. You may need to relink with your own intuition or your own sense of reality, or even with the parts of you that went quiet or silent in order to survive. You may need to relearn what calm feels like, or what it's like to speak without bracing for impact. Or you need to relearn what it's like to make a decision without anticipating backlash. That work is not loud. It doesn't trend, and it rarely ever comes with applause. It typically happens in private, in therapy rooms, on long walks, in quiet journaling sessions, and in tears that finally feel clean instead of confusing. It happens when you sit with yourself and admit that wasn't okay. And instead of turning that insight outward in rage, you turn it inward in care. Pratisandhana at its core means reestablishing connection. Sometimes the connection that needs reestablishing most is the one with yourself. Not every door is meant to reopen. Not every fracture is meant to be reset. Some fractures, if forced back into place, are just going to break again, deeper and sharper this time. Discernment asks, is this relationship stretching me into growth or stretching me into distortion? Am I becoming more myself here or less? If the cost of staying is self-betrayal, honey, the repair is not with them. The repair is you choosing yourself. And that kind of repair builds resilience you carry into every future connection. It strengthens your discernment and sharpens your boundaries. It teaches your nervous system that you will not abandon it again. It teaches you that love is not proven by endurance, it is proven by integrity. Sometimes walking away is not giving up, it is putting yourself back together, carefully, consciously, and with reverence. That kind of Pratisandhana is holy work. It's the quiet courage of saying, I deserve connection that does not require my disappearance. And from that place, grounded, regulated, and self-linked, the next connection you build will be stronger. Not because you are harder, because you're clearer. Okay, let's make this practical, my lovelies. Theory is lovely, it's fantastic, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. Insight is powerful. But Pratisandhana only becomes real when you practice it in the messy, unscripted middle of your actual life. Sucks, don't it? So this week, when a rupture happens, and trust me, it will, because you are human in a relationship with other humans, try this particular structure. First, name the rupture. Something felt off in that conversation. I noticed we both got quiet after that. That exchange didn't sit right with me. You're not accusing, you're observing, you are shining a light without swinging a sword. Second, own your part. I shut down instead of saying I was overwhelmed. I got defensive when you asked that. I interrupted you. Even if your part is small, name it. Ownership lowers defenses. It signals you're here to repair, not to win. Third, ask for impact. How did that land for you? What was that like on your end? Did that feel dismissive? This is where humility lives. You're making space for their experience even if it doesn't match your intention. Fourth, state your boundary or need. I need us to slow down when voices rise. I need more clarity before I can make that decision, before we make that decision. I need a pause when I feel flooded. This is the spine. Without this step, repair becomes vague. Boundaries create structure for the next attempt. Fifth, offer change. Next time, I'll say I need a pause instead of poofing, disappearing. I'll ask before assuming. I'll finish my thought without interrupting. That's it. No dissertations, no character assassination, no ancient history dragged in as supporting evidence. The moment you start saying, and another thing, back in blah, 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 you've left repair and entered prosecution. Repair is about the present rupture, not the entire archive. You're not building a court case. Shut up. You are building resilience. And here's something advanced. Appreciation strengthens repair. Who'da thunk, right? I value you. I value us. That's why I'm having this conversation. I care about us, so I don't want to let this fester. And you matter to me. All very good phrases to use while you're doing this. That line, those lines shift conflict from threat to investment. It reframes the entire conversation from we're in danger to we are worth the effort. Resilient connection is built through dozens and dozens of small repairs. Not one grand apology with dramatic music in the background. It's the steady accumulation of moments where both people say, let's try again. Think of it painfully like resetting a bone. It's delicate, it requires steadiness, and you do not yank it around. You align it carefully, you stabilize it, and you give it time to knit. Now here's the fascinating part, the absolutely coolest part. Once healed properly, the bone is often stronger at the site of repair. Not because it never broke, because it healed intentionally. Pratisandhana is that intentional healing. It's not avoiding rupture, it's choosing to realign with awareness, humility, and structure. Every time you practice it, you teach your nervous system that conflict does not equal catastrophe, it can equal growth. And witchlings, that is some real-time magic. Now here's the tender part. After hurt, the instinct is armor. It happens fast. Sometimes it happens so fast you don't even notice it forming. Wow. You don't even notice it forming. Your shoulders stiffen, your voice flattens, your humor turns sharp, and your heart pulls back just a little bit, enough to avoid the next blow. Armor works. Let's give credit where credit is due. Armor prevents immediate pain. It dampens the impact. It buys time. It also prevents intimacy, because intimacy requires permeability. It requires being seen, and being seen means you can be hurt again. So, staying open is not naive. It's courageous. It says, I will risk being known again. I will risk telling the truth about what mattered. I will risk caring visibly instead of pretending I don't. But here's the key, guys. Openness must be paired with discernment. Openness without discernment is self-exposure. Discernment without openness is isolation. We are not choosing either or. This is not a binary thing. We are choosing both. Discernment asks hard questions, not paranoid questions, not trauma-driven hypervigilance, grounded, steady questions. Is this person demonstrating change? Are my boundaries respected? Is accountability present when harm happens? Are we both stretching toward growth? If yes, stay open. If no, openness becomes self-exposure without protection. Pratisandhana is not about clinging to every bond that ever mattered. It is about consciously choosing which bonds to reweave. It's about asking, is this connection structurally sound enough to restore? Because not every thread is meant to be tied again. And sometimes the most loving act is saying this connection cannot be restored safely. That's not failure. That is wisdom. Wisdom recognizes patterns. Wisdom watches behavior over time. Wisdom understands that words are easy and consistency is rare. Staying open does not mean staying available to harm. It means refusing to let harm turn you into someone hardened beyond recognition. There is a version of protection that turns into cynicism. I'm never going to trust again. I don't need anyone. It's better this way. Maybe. But often, that's just armor that forgot how to come off. And here's something that matters a lot. You can take the lesson without carrying the wound forever. You can learn to set clearer boundaries without shutting your heart off completely. You can refine your discernment without assuming the worst in everyone. That balance is advanced work. It requires self-trust. Self-trust says, I can open carefully because I know I will act if my boundaries are crossed. I don't need to preemptively close everything. I know how to protect myself now. And I have cat hair tickling my nose. I know how to protect myself now. That is resilience. Resilient connection is not about avoiding pain. It's about knowing you can move through it without losing yourself. And that brings us back to Pratisandhana, putting together again. Sometimes that means putting a relationship back together, more honest, more structured, more aware. Sometimes it means putting yourself back together after a break, reclaiming your voice, your humor, your softness. And sometimes it means both. All right, we're going to take a breath. So take a breath with me. Feel your spine lengthen, your heart soften. Notice that those two things can coexist. A steady spine does not harden your heart, and a soft heart does not weaken your spine. Two things can be true at the same time. You are allowed to repair and set limits. You are allowed to stay open and walk away. All of that can coexist inside a mature, grounded human. There is no single script for love, my lovelies. There is only integrity. Integrity says, I will not betray myself to keep connection. I will not weaponize vulnerability to control. I will not avoid repair when it is possible, and I will not force repair when it is unsafe. That is adult love. And in a culture that either romanticizes love or trivializes it, that kind of steadiness is seriously radical. So, as you move through this week, watch your armor. Notice when it slides on. Ask if it's necessary. Ask if discernment is possible, and ask if repair is possible. And when it is, practice Pratisandhana. Put it back together with intention. Now, let's check in with the chat and see what everybody's saying. Hi, everybody. I see Will. I see Andrea. Hi, Andrea. I see Hazel. You okay, Hazel? Checking in on you. Ah. Self-respect is the necessary selfishness of natural self-assurance. Damn, Joram. Gotcha. Awesome, awesome. All right. I'm going to take a sip. Oh, I got the sniffles. Hey, Ro. All right. Oh. This was a powerful show tonight. Thank you guys for sticking around. I love what we are covering here. I am loving this week's word. As I said during Daily Draw, but because I can't remember the damn word, I have to look it up again. Haha. The Pratisandhana reminds me so much of Kintsugi. And the amusing thing is, when I first chose the word, I wasn't the only one thinking that. So I'm kind of happy. All right, you guys. Let's wrap up. So, hands are cold. As we close tonight, you guys, remember this. Spread love. Spread joy. Spread kindness. Not the performative kind, the steady kind, the kind that regulates before reacting, the kind that repairs instead of retaliates, the kind that sets limits without cruelty. Tell the people you love that you love them in all their forms: 2 legs, 4 legs, fur, wings, scales. Don't assume they know. Say it out loud, say it often, make it awkward if you have to. And if you take one thing from this cauldron and everything else we do, let it be this: you are loved, you are wanted, you are needed, and you are here for a reason, even if you don't know what it is yet. Your willingness to repair matters, your limits matter, your openness matters. May your repair be honest, may your limits be loving, and may your connection be resilient. Thank you for joining us this week, you guys. Namaste, my witchlings. I'll see you soon.